to Casually Dressed and Deep in Conversation with me, Greg Chalmers. CDDC is sponsored by Pizza Daddy, Lanarkshire's #1 American-style pizza parlour. To stay up to date on new flavours and promotions, then get connected on the socials. The Instagram handle is @RealPizzaDaddy and the website is www.thepizzadaddy.co.uk. To see what we're getting up to here at Casually Dressed, then you can find us on Instagram with the handle @CDDC Podcast, and on Twitter it is @PodcastCDDC. Also, as you're watching this on YouTube, then please hit those like and subscribe buttons. And with me today as my co-host is my best pal, and the Rodney to my Del Boy, it's Chris Shields.
Hello.
And joining us today is West End performer and choreographer Michael Naylor. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Having a nice day.
I'm glad. Actually, how are you getting on with lockdown?
Yeah, it's all right, mate. I go through waves. Sometimes I'm quite enjoying it, I won't lie. Financially, it's probably not the best thing for my life, but I'm enjoying the time. And now the sun's out, it's a bit better. But I go through waves of being really motivated and then days where I just don't want to do absolutely anything. So it's a bit up and down like that. Do you know what I mean?
Mate, I think that's the same for everyone. I'm a photographer, and all my work has been rescheduled for next year.
Yeah,
so but everyone's in the same boat, you know. Actually, so were you in the middle of a production or something like that when all this started, or?
Yeah, we were actually, mate. We were about to go on tour for a month on a show that we've been doing in London. We've been on and off with the show for 3 or 4 months, and it was getting really good. And we were getting to a point where we were like, this is going to be amazing. Like, this is going to be the best tour of life so far. And it was going to nice places and all the rest of it. And then obviously the rumours started going around about this virus. And then within a week we got shut down. So it all got cancelled. We got called into the theatre and just told that we were getting cut off with no pay for the rest of the tour. So
yeah. That doesn't sound great, man.
It wasn't a great day. It wasn't perfect. No, it was a shame because I was doing a show called Message in a Bottle, which it sounds a bit dodgy when I talk about it, but it's actually a great show. It's to the music of Sting, and it's sort of about the refugee crisis, and somehow it works quite well hand in hand. And just the people were really great, and the show was really great, and it was selling well. And yeah, so now it's been sort of postponed until 2021.
So obviously you came highly recommended to us from Michael Scott. He said you were some sort of deity when it comes to dance.
How about that, mate? That wrong.
So if we go back from the start, how did you get into dance?
I didn't get into it till quite late because a lot of dancers sort of start when they're sort of 7 or 8 and go along to ballet and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't. I got into like a street dance class when I was in school. I was probably about 15, and I was actually just playing football, and I was playing golf at a fairly decent level at the time, which don't really go very hand in hand with dance. And then I started going to some sort of like street dance classes after hours in school just to try and be a bit cooler because I wasn't the coolest kid in the world. And I sort of took to it quite a lot, and then just sort of pursued it, and it was sort of ended up as, instead of it being 1 class a week, it ended up being 2 or 3, and then joined a company and all that sort of stuff, and realised I didn't have a lot else going on in my life, so I thought I'd pursue it. I wasn't going to be a professional golfer, so that was my only option, really.
So when you were saying you were going to make it a profession, was there like a turning point where you realised that this is actually going to happen?
Kind of, yeah. I was doing my A levels, and you get to a point where you obviously have to think about what you do afterwards. And at the time, I decided to start auditioning for colleges or like institutions or universities or whatever. And I decided to go down the dance route and just sort of hope it went well for me. So I think that was sort of the big turning point, because that's sort of where you pick the start of your career, because you go to study something for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of put all my focus on auditioning for places. And I think I auditioned for like 5 or 6 places in the end, which is like going to it's like checking out 6 different unis. You know what I mean? Going for a whole day and just sort of hoping it goes well. Yeah, so I think that was sort of the first point of the first step, and then from there I sort of never really looked back actually.
There's obviously, because it's London, there's so much competition.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying you went to Studio Centre?
Yeah, I went to the same place as Mick. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I went down to see him there, but I also went to the Urdang show.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was incredible, and the level of dancer that was there was mind blowing. And my only thought was that if every year there is that level coming out of London, it means that the competition for work must be insane.
Yeah, it's wild, mate. It's really funny actually, because you'll turn up to a casting or an audition or whatever, and you sort of think, I'll tell you what, I fit this brief pretty well. I feel like this is going to go pretty well for me. And then you rock up and there's like 25 other guys that look exactly the same as you, exactly the same thing as you, and you just think, right, well, let's hope that this goes well. I think one of the jobs I auditioned for, they had 5,000 applicants, and it was for 20 people in the end. So it's quite a cut down, yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. I can imagine it'd be quite demoralising at some points.
Sometimes it is, mate. Yeah, I've been quite lucky in life so far, but I did have a stage actually where I came out of college. This is a bit of a tangent, but I came out of college and I injured my knee, so I went off for a whole year. I had to take basically a year off, and then when I came back, I didn't really have the same like motivation as I had before. Not motivation, that's the wrong thing to say. I sort of had like momentum when I was leaving college, about to go into the industry and all that sort of stuff, and I sort of lost a bit of momentum. So I had a sort of a period where I didn't really know. I was like, do you know what? I just need to get a job. I just need to get some money in my pocket. So I just started auditioning for. I never really wanted to go on a cruise, but I started auditioning for cruises. And at the time, I couldn't even get a cruise. I was in such a rut that I was like, I can't get a job. I don't want to work a normal job because this is what I want to do. I've just spent a year injured, sitting in my mum's lounge for most of it. So yeah, it was a bit. You go through stages like that where you wake up and you think, I can't face another one of these horrible auditions, but let's give it a crack.
What did you do to your knee?
First time I just tore my meniscus, but it tore again, and the second time I tore my meniscus and my ACL. So I've had two knee surgeries on my left knee. Yeah,
I've just come back from knee surgery. So I snapped my kneecap in two, took my patella tendon off, snapped my hamstring, and did my ACL.
Oh, mate. That was a bad turn of events.
And that was last August, so I've only been able to walk for the past 12 weeks.
Oh my god, that is rough. Yeah. So
so I feel your pain, mate. I feel your pain.
Yeah, so Greg's what we call a lockdown pro, and he's actually been locked down for about a year already, so he's unable to move.
Yeah. It's a weird time, isn't it? That when you're on crutches and you're just sort of housebound for 3-4 months sometimes. Yeah,
try to keep the weight off. That's the problem, because you're not doing anything.
I went swimming a lot. I think swimming helped me a lot when I was injured, just because. And I wasn't a great swimmer, but I just thought, I don't know how else to do this. Like, I don't want to just go to the gym and lift weights and get tiny legs. So
you're like Michael Phelps now.
Now, Olympic. Here we go.
So Mick sent us through basically the productions that you've been involved in, and I thought we could maybe go through them, because I think for a lot of people they're very well known shows, and you just tell us what they were like and stuff like that. So the first one I've got down here is you were in Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah, I was in Bat Out of Hell. It was running for the last sort of 2 years or so, or I was involved in it for 2 years or so. I started off. It's a strange show. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it's a wild show. A lot of different things happened. It was basically like this creative mastermind where they wanted to create something that no one had ever seen before. So they tried to make this like theatrical experience that no one had ever seen. So there's like cars that get chucked into the pit in this like roller coaster thing on stage. There's fire everywhere. Yeah, there's a motorbike that crashes. There's like motorbikes that come across stage, and there's all sorts of weird stuff. But it's this sort of amazing theatrical experience, and I had no idea about it. And I just got asked to do it by someone that I'd danced with once. So I went into the show as something called featured dancer, which basically means I can't sing. So I can't sing, so they've got to put me at the front of the dancing. So yeah, I went in as that, and then I had this sort of weird journey through it where I danced in it for 3 months. Then I tore my knee again. Actually, one of the surgeries was during I went away to Indonesia and I crashed a motorbike, and that's when I tore my ACL. And then because I crashed and tore my ACL, I had to go into like a creative role. Mm-hmm. So I then ended up started on the choreography because the choreographer left and didn't want anything to do with it. So then I started working on the choreography side of things. Yeah.
Do you prefer working on the choreography side of things rather than being a dancer?
No, mate. So there's pros and cons to both, definitely. Mm-hmm. The good thing about being a dancer is if you don't have like the positives and negatives, I guess. Being a dancer, I enjoy that you don't have any sort of big responsibilities. You just get to do your job and do it well, and hope that you perform every night to your best of ability. Whereas the creative side of things, there's like a pressure. There's a time pressure and there's always someone above you that wants more from you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So and also it's a bit like it's people management a lot of the time. So say there's 32 people in the cast and you have to tell them what to do. And most of them are going to be older and more experienced than you, or it was my case at the time. So I just sort of had to tell these people to get their shit together sometimes. And obviously they didn't respond well to it. So there was this sort of weird relationship thing that you have to manage. So yeah, that was hard.
I can imagine, yeah. Actually, Chris, you were talking about stuff to do with being in a lead. So Chris has just left the army.
Oh, amazing.
And Chris was talking about basically just the leadership role and stuff like that, how certain people are probably more cut out for it than others.
Mm.
Yeah, it was that as well as obviously you were saying there are certain times where you've got to like essentially tell people that they're not doing things right or they're not doing things up to standard. It was kind of how do people go about that in the dance world? Because obviously there's perceptions of how people do it within the military, and it's actually probably slightly different now because obviously there's a change of different type of people coming through. So it's kind of, I suppose it's how did you go about telling people how to get things done, or if people weren't up to the standards, how did you go about that?
Yeah, it's a rough one actually. That I don't know what it's like in the military, obviously, but I imagine that you can be a bit more upfront with how you feel. And then sometimes in the dance world, obviously people take a lot of offence. They're quite, including myself, you get quite attached to what you do and you get quite precious about what you're doing. So as soon as you get told that you're not doing it right or that you need to work on certain things, it gets to you quite a bit. So you have to approach it in like, what I used to do is just give general notes for everyone, and then you'd have to go around to individuals and sort of work on individual stuff with people. And then if that didn't work, and if that wasn't, wasn't having any effects, then you'd have to do the whole like call people into an office and have a chat with them, sit down, and that's just when it gets a bit. It either goes one way or the other. It's either really successful and you sort of come out of it thinking, "Oh, that's nice. We've got a nice bond now."
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's either kind of the whole carrot or stick thing. Some people really, really respond well to kind of having an arm round and right, just I'll think about this, think about that. Or other people, you need to either do the kind of like scream and shout, you're not doing things right, you need to get up to standard, blah blah blah, shot across the bow. But I mean, I found that especially with the younger recruits coming in, I used to at one point train recruits like basic like phase 1 military training, and at first I thought, right, I'm going to turn up and be this guy that does all the screaming and shouting and do this and that, and I'm going to say jump, they're going to say how high. But essentially you're getting like these like 15-year-old wide boys coming in going, who's this lad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I quickly realised, if you gave them the disappointed dad routine whenever you'd be like, well, I mean, you've just let me down. Honestly, you would see the little worlds fall apart and go, oh no.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That the first time I've done that, you go, right, got you. I now know how you guys work.
Yeah, it's
and then
isn't it? Yeah.
It's working out how people work, and then that's it. Boom, you've got this dynamic then, and it seems to it flows.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's exactly the same thing. You've got to work out how that person, and I think it's always better to go with the positive response and trying to build people up than it is to knock people down. But
100%.
again, like you said, some people just don't respond to that, and then you have to go into a different gear, and that's when it gets a bit like you've made Kyle cry, and you think, well,
fuck Kyle, fuck Kyle.
Yeah, man up, Kyle.
Yeah.
What I was also wanting to ask you about as well is about the work you've done with Zoo Nation, Michael.
Yeah.
I read it saying you were over in Dubai with them.
No, I wasn't in Dubai with Zoo Nation, actually. It was a different company completely. But I've been working with Zoo Nation not too long, actually, just on a couple of shows recently. They're quite big. They're quite big theatre company within the UK. And I've just done a couple of shows for them recently. But I've always been a fan of theirs. And if you ever get to see a show of theirs, it's always like, it's good dance, theatre, entertainment. Like, it's funny. It's good stuff to be a part of, and they do a lot of hip hop and street styles on stage, so it's quite nice to do that because there's not a lot of opportunity for that. But yeah, in Dubai actually, because Mick was in Dubai as well.
Yeah,
we were there at sort of similar times, but I was doing a completely different show. I can't even I couldn't begin to explain it, but it was basically like it's basically like an entertainment park, like a huge entertainment park, and we just were like a regular show within the park. So
was it in Ferrari World?
Not Ferrari World, actually. That was Abu Dhabi, but it's similar to that, basically. Very similar to that, but just on a different sort of like an arena-sized stage. But we're just doing like dance shows on there throughout the day, and it was hard graft, but it was rewarding, but it was hard graft. Yeah.
How long were you out there for?
I was out there 2 stints of 6 months. The first time I went out there just because I wanted a job and it seemed like a great thing to do. And then I fell in love with a lady, and then I went back again because she wanted to go back, and I was like, right, let's go back and do it. And I heavily regretted the second time, but I learned from it. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's a strange place. My sister's actually out there as well. She teaches dance out there.
Okay, nice.
With, teaching school kids and stuff. So yeah, she's been out there 4 years now. Like, so she seems to be enjoying it. Well, I say she tells me she.
Sorry, there's a place that you can definitely enjoy, and it's great. There's loads of high life side of it. I don't know if you've been out there much to visit her.
I haven't, to be honest. No, I haven't managed to be out there. It's one of those ones where we keep planning to go out there, but like my job then got in the way, and then obviously the way things are at the moment, we were actually planning to go out in October, but that's looking less likely. So
yeah, we were going Tanzania 2 weeks ago, mate. So we really enjoyed it.
I was meant to be going to Marbella on Sunday.
Yes.
Raging,
rough. Yeah, that's rough. But yeah, Dubai's a strange place. You sort of, if you can look past the sort of, I know it sounds quite brutal, but if you can look past the slavery side of things and the rich to poor ratio, then you can sort of have a good time. But it does feel quite false because you sort of be on this like rooftop bar, 60 floors up, and then you notice that there's like a truck. It's just, there's a lot of like, there's an undercurrent of people that are working there for little to nothing or no money at all.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are obviously, that basically own the place and can do whatever they want and will tell you that like, I got kicked out of so many bars when I just wasn't in the, it wasn't my fault at all, but if you ever say anything to anyone that is an Arab or a local, you're in a bad situation. Yeah.
It's the hypocrisy of Dubai that I don't quite understand, because technically it's a dry country, do you know what I mean? But there's all these rooftop bars and all that. I don't understand. Makes no sense.
The first time we went to Dubai, I've never been so drunk in all my life. We had 3 weeks basically where the theatre wasn't ready. The stage that we were supposed to be on, it wasn't ready for the shows. So they were just like, right, well, there's nothing we can do. So just, we were in a hotel in a nice place, we were getting paid. And we basically just had 3 weeks off. So we were like, right, well, we'll just get really drunk every day. And they have no limits to it, basically. As long as you're not drinking out on the streets, then you're sorted.
That sounds awful. I hate that.
not to make this about Mick, but I remember when Mick first went out to Abu Dhabi, and he's obviously, Mick's one of my best mates, but he's got a hot head. I remember literally saying to him, whatever you do, Mick, do not get in any trouble out there. Like, do not get in any fight, not approach any Arabs. And I was like, Mick's going to get deported. Mick's gonna get prison. I was so sure of it. Yeah.
That man he's a magnet for it. He's just one of those guys. He could start a fight in an empty room. Like, I know, mate, unbelievable. It's incredible.
They're quite funny.
That's it, mate. You can take the boy out of Clydebank, but you can't take the Clydebank out of the boy.
100%.
There's just something in him that after 2 or 3 drinks, that is it. This wee bit of poison where he's just like, who are you talking to? And before you know it, the tables are up there.
Every job you've gone on, I've always been like, Mick, just whatever you do. When he went on the cruise, I was like, there's no way. Well, to be fair, I think the ladies calmed him down a lot. So.
Yeah. And actually, do you know, Chris and I have spoken about this before. Like, I've known Mick for 10 years, maybe. And when I said to Chris, when Mick came on the podcast, I said to Chris that just having a conversation with him out with what we usually talk about, which is just shite, but he was actually, you could tell that he's really grown up. You know, he was like quoting statistics and all that, and I thought, what have you been doing here? Actually, do you know what Mick did tell us to ask you about was the Spice Girls thing that you've been doing?
Yeah.
So how was that?
It was an amazing experience in one hand, and in one it actually tested me a lot. I don't think I was ready for it at that time in my life. And actually I've learned a lot since it, but basically I sort of got into the situation and I had to be, to put it bluntly, I had to be a lot camper than I wanted to be. Obviously doing that in front of 90,000 people or whatever. And I think I wasn't comfortable enough with who I was at the time to be, to be confident within it and just go, I'm getting paid for this. This is a job. I should enjoy this. But instead, it took a bit of, I sort of clashed a lot with some of the ideas within the show and stuff like that. And I think now looking back at it, I wish I would have just embraced the experience a bit more. But I mean, amazing, the side of things where you're sort of in front of 90,000 people and they're going wild and all that sort of stuff. You can't really fault that. I had a bit of a tough journey with getting on board with what I was doing a lot of the time. Yeah. So yeah, that was what it was.
So how many shows was it?
We didn't do that many. I think we did like 11 or 12 shows, and maybe not even that. That might be absolute bullshit, mate. It might have been like 6. I think about that. We did 3 at Wembley at the end. That was sort of the highlight. We did. I think we did come to Scotland. Can't remember where we did.
Probably the Hydro.
Where's Croke Park? That's not in Scotland.
No, Croke Park's in Dublin. That's Dublin.
Great. That's strong. See how much attention I paid. We did do a show in Edinburgh, I think, or
Murrayfield.
Yeah, Murrayfield. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been, if it was stadium, it would have been Murrayfield. That's the biggest one, isn't it?
I thought you just googled that, Chris.
No, not at all. It's all up here, mate. All up here.
Yeah, it was nice.
Useless information about stadia. I'm your man.
No statistics. But yeah, it was nice to be in Edinburgh. I think it's much nicer than Glasgow, eh?
Well, that's a difficult thing to say to 2 boys big Glasgow, mate.
Say that too. I couldn't take it back more.
So what's it like performing in front of that amount of people then?
Yeah, it's wild actually. Even if you think you're prepared for it, you're not. You sort of get out there and you're like, oh shit, this is wild. And then obviously the music starts playing and people, and the Spice Girls, I mean, they have, as easy as it is to maybe not them, they've got some of the most loyal and like crazy fans you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like they turned up on stage, I can't remember if it was for the first show or which show it was, but people just screamed for like 30 seconds before they played any music. It was like Michael Jackson came on stage and people just lost their shit, and you thought, like, you just got to hold your position, let people scream for 30 seconds, and then just stop dancing. It's so weird, mate. It's really, really weird. it is a weird and wonderful experience, and you can't really. I couldn't really put that into words, or it's something that I'd love to experience again, because it is something that sort of takes you back a bit. Do you know what I mean?
What are the nerves pretty intense before you go on in front of that amount of people?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
can imagine.
I've got a fun story for you. So it was in Wembley. It was show 2 in Wembley, I think, and we basically, we had to run. There was this moment where we have flares. So there's 4 boys on stage. It's just like a transition moment. So they play some music, and the Spice Girls are getting dressed. And we stand on stage and we're topless and we've got these flares and we have to try and look as masculine as possible. I obviously had a bit more meat on me at the time. And we basically have to just run around. They have this big, huge stage that goes into the audience. So we just have to run around it and then run back off the other side. Super simple, easy as pie. But it was raining at the time and we're wearing these big baggy trousers and we basically got ballet shoes on. So we're like, this is a nightmare. And the stage is like grit. So it's like sandpaper. It's like 240 grit on the stage. And so we stand there. We start running, we run down these stairs. I get about 3 or 4 strides into it, going as fast as I can. Obviously, I take a massive tumble, slip completely across the stage, like cut up my whole down here. And the moment I slipped, the whole audience just went, "Oh!" 90,000 people or whatever, or like 85,000 people screaming like, "Oh!" There's only 4 of us on stage, and one of us has taken a massive dive. I just had to sort of scrape myself off, get back up, and carry on running across the stage. And I tripped again when I got to the other side because the rain kept getting caught on my trousers. So I was running up the stairs the other side and took another tumble. And then my mate took a tumble at the same time. It was just like one of them things. So I come off stage, I'm like covered in blood, and 90,000 people have just seen me fall over. And it was just like, so yeah, some of it you get a bit nervous about. And then every time we did that from now on, I was like terrified just to run across the stage. Some of it's a bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, you would probably have been on so many mobile phone videos.
Oh mate, I searched online afterwards. I was like, someone must have posted.
I was going to say it's bound to be on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah,
in a little wormhole somewhere.
I'd love to see it. I really would.
So, what you were saying that the project that you were just about to get involved in, was that a West End show as well?
Yeah, it was a West End show. Yeah, it was in a theatre called the Peacock, which is in Holborn. And yeah, we were 1 week away from finish our run in the West End, and then it was going on a tour. So what happens with a lot of the shows? It was a Zoo Nation show. And what happens with them a lot is they do a small stint, like 6 to 10 weeks, whatever, in London, and then they go on a tour around Europe or the UK or that sort of thing. And yeah.
So is that, you know, the kind of work cycle of a dancer? I mean, as a profession, you can't work into your 50s and 60s performing. So what do you see your future being in the dance game, without making sort of reality hit home just now?
It's an important question, and it's a question I ask myself a lot. And I don't know, to be honest. I go through different stages where I really want to carry on and go into the choreography side of things. I'd like to perform as long as I can. But yeah, it is a big question. I think teaching is always an option for dancers, because if you've had a decent career and you have a love for teaching and creating, then it's a nice way to sort of bridge that gap and pass on some knowledge. So I think those are sort of my options. But also, I've got this side of me that, you know, actually just wants to go and live somewhere off grid and just sort of live off the land. That side of I don't know if it's side of man, but side of me, so definitely, that I just like to be sort of a bit more immersed in nature and away from city life. I've done it for like 11 years now, so there's that sort of thing that at some point, if I'm financially stable enough, I'd like to try and do that and just have it as a hobby less than a career. So
I suppose, like, try to connect with your more primal self.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what's funny, mate? So since we've been in lockdown, I've taken up carpentry. I'm not good at it. I'm very much not good at it. But I've decided like one day I'd like to try and build a house and that sort of thing. And I think, you know, it'd be nice to gain some skills, especially if I can't do anything else at the moment. So I'm just learning shit videos off YouTube and making coffee tables and treasure chests.
Treasure chests.
I know, pointless things. Just to try and learn how to put a bit of wood together, really.
So if you could pick anywhere to go off the grid, where would you go?
He's not going to tell you that because he's going to be off the grid, isn't he?
We can't exactly.
We're telling you. I'm off the grid.
But I mean, just a general area. Do you know what I mean? I'm not looking for what oak tree he's going to be underneath.
My sister lived in Canada for a while. I went out to visit her, and the sort of Rockies and the mountains in Canada are just unreal. Just a nice way to live your life. So, I mean, it's quite far away from everything else, but that'd be nice. Somewhere similar to that, somewhere woodlands with a bit of sun, basically.
Yeah, I was going to suggest Scotland until you said with sun.
I'll tell you what, if the Highlands had a bit more sun, mate, I'd be there in a heartbeat. But,
well, I mean, it's been nice for like 4 days this year.
I think we've had our summer already. I mean, I've just moved to Northern Ireland now, and we're exactly the same over here. I think we're in the middle of our summer now, and that's it.
I think those areas, I mean, it's what makes it beautiful, isn't it? Is the weather, but the Highlands and Northern Ireland, all those sort of places are unbelievable. Like North Wales, they're all so nice, but I just couldn't cope. I don't think I could cope with the weather.
Do you know what the problem is? It's not the weather. It's you can't plan anything. You can't be like, see, in 2 weeks, let's go camping or whatever. You've literally got, we might be going camping, but we're waiting. It's like the day of. The sun's out. Right, here we go. You know.
Yeah, one of them ones, mate. I can't see that as a future.
Yeah. So the other thing I've got down here to ask you is the most surreal moment in your career. The thing that you look back on, you think, that was insane.
Again, tough one. Do you know what? I'll go for a couple. Obviously, the Spice Girls thing is a bit wild because I don't think I'll ever experience being at Wembley and knowing that I've got like a 2-hour show that I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of that was pretty crazy. But another one was actually just an audition. We had an audition recently for the show that just got cancelled, and I just remember being in the room and everyone was just like phenomenal. I just remember looking around and the vibe was so nice and everyone was just like doing mad things around me. And I just thought, this is pretty surreal that this is my day to day. Like, this is, most people go for an interview for a job. I just get to watch people like do the fucking wildest things and get to dance around. You know what I mean? That was quite nice. That was a nice day, actually. Yeah, that was good.
So see, that's vastly different from my surreal moments. My surreal moments came when I was sat in a hole that I've dug for myself, just looking at trees, going, "This is my life." You know what I mean? That's where it came from. Yeah.
Chris's most surreal moment is shitting in a bag and then having to put it underneath him to keep himself warm.
Just looking, going, I could have got a job in an office instead of out here in a little hole. Just
avoid IEDs for the next 20 minutes. This is lovely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dressed as a bush, just moving, sneaking up on the enemy. Every time the enemy turns round, freezes, and then
I've had a few, not to the same extent, but I've done some jobs where you look at and surreal, not in a good way, surreal in the way that like, how am I getting paid for this, and what is my life like? Some jobs you just look back on and you think, what the fuck was I doing? Like, what am I doing here? Like costume, especially costume stuff, when you dress up in the most ridiculous things, and you have to like work at a kid's party or whatever, dressed as a clown, dancing like doing hip hop. I did for 3 years straight, actually, and actually really enjoyed it, but some of it was wild. I did a show called Folk Dance Remix where we did hip hop around the maypole. So I don't know if you know what a maypole is, but it's a stick with ribbons, basically. Yeah. And we used to go around to festivals and just dance hip hop around it. But
just top rocking with a ribbon in your hand.
You've nailed it. And I remember one place that we had to do like a not community service thing, but we went to like really rough areas while we were doing it. So we were taking it. The Arts Council had paid for us to go to like some pretty grim places and try and get these kids involved. And I remember we went to, I can't remember where it was, but there were these kids like all hoodied up, like balaclavaed up with their bikes, just shouting abuse. There was probably about 10 people in the whole park. Like bricks in hands, just shouting abuse at us and stuff while we danced around a maypole. And I just thought, what the fuck is my life? That was really cool.
God, can I imagine, man? So, what advice would you give to somebody like a younger Michael, right, getting into the industry? What advice would you give to him?
I think from a dance perspective, I think from a human perspective, just stay open. Be open to other different opportunities, and don't try and put yourself on one path that you think is right for you. Just stay as broad as possible, and sort of go with the wind a bit, and don't just sort of like force yourself into one road. I guess is the best way to put it. It's just because I think a lot of people come out of college now, and a lot of people start things, and they think, this is exactly what I want to be. I don't want to do anything else. I won't take this opportunity. I won't travel there. I want to do this, this, and this. And I think most of the best things that have happened to me have just come because someone's messaged me and be like, do you fancy trying this, or do you want to do this? And I think, yeah, fuck it, I'll go there and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good advice. Definitely good advice. So the other thing that I wanted to know was, see if you could work with any artist and or choreographer in the world, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive, I mean, it's got to be, I know it's cheesy, but it's got to be Michael Jackson. I know he's had his faults. But on a stage.
He's had his faults. It's like the biggest understatement of all time.
Just
a bit rogue, little scamp.
I was a thick kid as well. But yeah, I would probably say Michael Jackson, just because the music and the sort of creation. He always had an eye for sort of theatrical things that pleased me, and his choreographer was incredible as well. So I think that would be a big one. But living now would be JT. I'd love to dance with JT. It's just a long way away in America with no visa. So
so see, if for talking's sake, if JT was to come to Britain touring, would he bring dancers across from the States? Would it be that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I actually saw a few of his shows, and he always brings. He has like a small team of dancers, and they go around on tour with him for a year or so.
Oh, so that's a pipe dream then.
I'm letting it. That's what I'm going for nature instead, mate.
Just embrace the woods, mate. Embrace the woods.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris, you had said there was a couple of things that you wanted to bring up, rather than me just talking about who have you met and all
that. No, I suppose it was more kind of like we kind of double back on ourselves, like with your injury. You were talking about how you kind of lost a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
Like, so, obviously, from Mick was saying you came out with this this really enhanced reputation. Kind of, there was obviously things were kind of going the right direction. How do you then go about rebuilding, like, kind of your profile and getting your name out there again?
It's a big thing at the moment, actually, for dancers, is having this sort of profile, and a lot of it comes through social media, and I just can't really get on board with it as much as I want to. I was doing quite well in that side of things. You just have to stay present and sort of post the right things and be in the right places and try and do, apply your skills as well as you can, really. But I've sort of let that go a bit recently, and I'm sort of cared a bit less about the reputation side of things. It's again same for any jobs and all the rest of it. I think it's word of mouth. If people have enjoyed working with you, then the next person hopefully will as well. But it's a weird thing in dance at the moment, and it relies really heavily on social media or friendships in different groups and all the rest of it. And I don't have the same momentum or motivation to be posting videos and all the rest of it at the moment, just because unless it feels real, if it feels fake and forced to me, I just can't really get on board with it. Yeah. So it's a difficult thing actually, for performers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got a similar issue with social media myself, in that, I mean, when I first joined the army, it was when kind of Facebook and everything was blowing up, and then straight away people, like, we were getting kind of told from, watch what you're posting online, you'll make yourself a target, this, that, and the other. So I've got this kind of strange, kind of standoffish relationship with social media, and that I don't want to put too much out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've now come out the army, and then now people are going, right, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. Why are you not posting this? Why are you not posting that? I've spent the last 14 years being told not to. So it's a strange one, yeah. I mean,
yes, it is a weird thing. It's a weird balance, isn't it, to try and find, because you sort of just want to post whatever makes you happy, but what makes you happy probably isn't what other people are going to want to look at half the time. So I try to use it like a diary, I think, most of the time. And if I've had a nice experience and I had a nice moment, and I'll just post something of that and try and keep it like that, instead of posting a lot of dancers. I don't know if you go on any of Mixed Friends profiles or anything like that, but especially a lot of female dancers, is their profiles are all quite similar, and it's a lot of like, or any dancers really, it's a lot of portfolio pictures and like class videos and all that sort of stuff. And it works well for people, and it is a good thing to do, but it doesn't really feel like that's who I am. Do you know what I mean? Just post a picture of me topless with some nice lighting and a pink backdrop. Doesn't feel like me anymore.
I love that picture of you.
Yeah. That's what got me Spice Girls, mate. So.
The baby Spice picture, I liked it.
Yeah.
So you're saying with all that, like, obviously, do you find that you were like, a lot of people have got the same sort of profile? Do you find that you were, when you were kind of doing that sort of thing, that you found you got yourself getting the same types of roles, or was it kind of varied?
That is a really good question. I think what you post actually reflects really well on what you pick up as a job. Actually, yeah, that is a good thing to say. I think when Facebook was more popular, I was posting a lot of like creative dance videos and stuff like that, of me moving the way I wanted to move. And I ended up in some jobs, like I got Bat Out of Hell through that, basically. And then when I finished Bat Out of Hell, I was like, I want to try and push into the commercial industry more. And the commercial industry is more of the portfolio side of things. So I started to verge on that a bit more. And then I picked up a few jobs through that. And then that sort of tumbles, whatever it's called, it rolls into the next one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, so that is a big thing. I think you post sort of the right lane of what you want to work on. You put your profile forward in the jobs that you want to receive, I guess. Yeah.
So what do you prefer? What do you prefer, like, kind of the commercial side, or is it just a case of whatever's right at the time?
Yeah, whatever's right at the time, whatever feels right for your journey, I guess. But I think right now I prefer to do more theatre stuff than commercial stuff. I think film and TV is great if you're on a creative project, but if you're it pays a lot better, is the only other side of things. So the pay for TV and commercial stuff is a lot higher, but it's not necessarily as fulfilling because you're not the focus. You're always the background, because the dancing sort of obviously not the main selling point. So yeah, that's the side of it that you have to sort of weigh up. Is it you either become sort of a pawn within it, or you try and be a bit of a bigger character within something that means a bit more to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what sort of television stuff have you done?
Few bits, not a great deal. I filmed a couple different like film things. There are a couple films on Netflix that haven't come out yet. TV stuff, a few adverts and that sort of stuff. Yeah, some cheesy adverts and some film. Yeah, not as much on the TV side of things as I have theatre side of things.
Do you know, actually, just you mentioned the way you move there, and it kind of ties in with what we're talking about with the social media stuff. When I watched the videos of the way you move, it is really unique to you.
Yeah.
So see the rolls thing you were doing when you were like that is incredible, man. You look like a ninja.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that sort of stuff. I said I haven't done anything today, but I went to the park earlier and tried to sort of roll around a bit. But yeah, I like that sort of shit. I don't know. I like sort of weird and smooth movement. I think that's what applies to me. I like something that looks athletic, but someone that makes it look effortless. You know, that's kind of
Yeah.
I quite appreciate that.
And aesthetically, it's really pleasing to watch. You know, especially
Yeah.
when you're talking to like, somebody that could barely do a cartwheel. Do you know what I mean? That, and the only rolling Chris does is rolling down hills. Do you know what I mean?
I've got the flexibility of a breeze block, so
Yeah, but I mean, it's really impressive to see. Do you know what I mean? And it's different because obviously, Chris and I both obviously know Mick very well, and we know Adam and all that, all the dancers up here.
Yeah, yeah.
But they all kind of dance in a very similar way, and I think it's probably because they all came from the same sort of route. Do you know what I mean? And even Mick's pal Isaac, when I saw him dancing, it was slightly different again. You know.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to see a kind of different approach, you know.
Yeah, I think it's nice not to be a clone. I think a lot of dancers, not in a harsh way. I think everyone dances different, but there's a lot of people that want to be exactly as, you know, they want to dance a certain way and all the rest of it. I think it's better to find out how you personally like to move and then go from that. But in Scotland, like you said, your training is how you learn to move. It's the same as anyone. If you go into an education and you all have the same teacher, then you're going to come out with a similar learning ability or a similar knowledge, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think it just depends on your path of who you've had as your teachers and how you end up moving.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's some great, like you said, there's some great dancers in Scotland. Adam's Mick and Adam are, you know, two of my favourite dancers. So
Adam is he's a kind of a strange character, man, because like he went from being full on like Matrix robot to being this kind of funky Jesus character.
Funky Jesus is perfect. Actually.
Yeah, and the way he moves is completely different. The way he moves now is completely different to the way when I first saw him, and he was just like made of metal, just moving about.
Yeah. No, I remember when he first came, or when he was on TV and all that sort of stuff, and he was doing the more robotic popping side of stuff. And then again, he came to London and he had certain influences and certain all the rest of it, where he started to find this flow. And then obviously spiritually and all the rest of it, his mind frame sort of changed. And I think that then affected his body because then he started moving differently to sort of balance out what his brain was saying, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting to see and then he started doing the rapping stuff like that as well. It's all very deep. It's all very deep.
Very deep with Adam. I've learned that recently, and I think it's beautiful, and I think it's something that I think he's still learning. Yeah, like he's still not learning, but I think he's still figuring out what it is for him. But I remember I saw him not too long ago, and it was like talking to a different version of Adam that I knew, but he was obviously still Adam. But what he was saying was great, and all the rest of it. I think it's just a different side of him I hadn't got on board with yet, so I just had to learn and adapt to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think he probably prescribes to the train of thought that you're never ever the finished article. You know, you're always progressing.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's kind of the same with everybody. You know, if you take that, not even just in the dancing discipline, but if you look at Chris has spent the past 14 years of his life being drilled and living in a kind of military lifestyle, and then to come out, and he's still a young man by sort of everyday standards, but he's kind of got to get on Facebook and that a bit more.
No, definitely, it's true. I mean, I'm kind of going through this point now where I'm now having to try and kind of reinvent myself essentially, and kind of I've got this kind of part of my life where I know I've kind of assumed, like, acquired a sort of, I don't want to sound like fucking Liam Neeson. I've acquired skills. I've very least I've acquired this set of skills. I'm fucking an idiot, man.
You do know this has been recorded, Chris.
I know. I realise that. Yeah, I've just made. Yeah. No, but I've got. You're like there's these kind of transferable skills that you can take across into kind of civvy street of the world, and it's trying to work out where I fit in essentially in kind of in society. It's strange because
I've always thought that about people in the army. It's a weird jump, isn't it? Because you go from this sort of life where you live with a group of people, and then sort of this quite a similar group of people for so long. Then you've got to come back and just jump right back into fucking going to the supermarket with your missus and your. I just find it like it must be a weird like. I just think it's a weird transition, but like you said,
but you know what it is it's like a wee it's like you're under this wee umbrella, so it's like, I mean, everything's taken care of for you. So like, if you want to live it like you live in. If you've got a room on camp, you've got a room in it, or if your family want there, we've got houses, military houses for you guys to live in, so you can live in there with your family. So like kind of, it then just becomes your normal, and you're just like going like again you kind of move into a certain area, and you just live your life normally. But it's things like, I mean now I'm going, well, where am I going to get? I'm out now, and I'm like, well, where am I getting my money from now? I've not had that for the last 40. I've never had that. So I've now got to go through job interviews, and you've gone. Last job interview I had was for working in Asda, stacking shelves. But when I was still in school, and even then, I knew I was going to get a job because my mum worked in the supermarket. So I knew, so I was a shoo-in. I mean, so you're like, oh, how did it's There's a lot of
within the same sort of do you stay, like you said, you acquired these skills, so do you stay within the same sort of skill set? Like where do you go from army to
bounty hunter?
No, yeah, so yeah, for myself, I was a power engineer, so I dealt with like providing temporary power solutions to temporary power setups to like kind of small headquarters or like a hospital or whatever, these kind of small like locations out and about, wherever that may be. So yeah, like you do have like a kind of core trade to kind of pull on, but it's also, I'm kind of looking at this time as, well, I could go and do that sort of stuff again. I mean, there's a lot of mates of mine that have gone, I mean, they would be about doing all the kind of music festivals, these sort of things. There's all that work out there. But at the same time, like, it's not very often you get this chance to have a kind of clean break and try and do something completely different and try and be a different kind of version of yourself. So trying to do that, and then obviously I moved over to Northern Ireland with it because this is where the wife's from, and it's came across to start this charm offensive and literally unpacked that night. Boris is like, right, in your house, fat lad. Next week.
Oh, that's time. That is time. I only get to see Northern Ireland, do you?
No, not at all. Mother-in-law's house is all right. That's nice.
We're buying a house at the moment, actually. Me and my partner, that's one of our big steps. Is we've been in the process of buying a house for the last 2 months. We've emailed with a solicitor nearly sort of every couple of days, and we're waiting for the sellers to pull their finger out, basically. But yeah, we're trying to buy, and I think that's a big thing of my life. Is I'm about to turn 27. I know it's stupid, but I got my driving license this year finally. I'm buying a house. You know what I mean? Just sort of trying to get sort of some structure to myself, just so that dancing doesn't become the only part of my life. That I've got something to fall back on a little bit. You know what I mean? A bit of shelter.
Yeah. It's just becoming an adult, man. That's what it's all about.
Oh, mate, it's rough. It's rough.
It is rough. Right, so guys, I will call it a day there. That was cracking, Michael. Thanks very much for coming to talk to us, man.
Yes, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right, I'm just going to sign off, but don't hang up yet, guys. Thanks very much for listening, and hit those like and subscribe buttons.